For more on these developments in US-Cuba relations, I'm joined by Michael Shifter, President of the Inter-American Dialogue here in Washington. So, Michael, just how significant is this announcement today about the reopening of the embassies?
Well, we expected this would happen after the famous announcement with President Obama and Raul Castro on December 14th of last year. But it's still, it's quite a milestone. It's quite a significant achievement. It's a step forward. This was negotiated on both sides. So they agreed there were some problems in the way, there were some obstacles, but they overcame them. And so it shows that step by step, this process is moving forward.
What difference, though, is it going to make to Cubans having the stars and stripes flying over the American embassy in Havana?
Well, it means that there's going to be a significant diplomatic presence in the country. Right now, it's there, but it doesn't quite operate according to normal standards. Now it's going to operate that way, and there's going to be missions that are coming out from the United States, from different parts of the government, to try to open up with Cuba, to try to promote trade, greater business. So this is really a great opportunity.
Is the lifting of the US economic embargo on Cuba the real prize, though, and doesn't Congress stand in the way of that?
Well, right now it does, but if the Cubans respond positively to these, to the interest and initiative on the part of the United States to open up with Cuba, I think the Congress is going to be more sympathetic, not to lift the embargo from one day to the next, but perhaps a chipping away or erosion of the embargo. The restrictions are going to be dismantled over time.
The president has faced his critics over this, though. They said he's put his own legacy ahead of human rights in Cuba.
Well, the fact is, I think President Obama has made a persuasive case that the old policy wasn't exactly producing improvements in human rights. So he said, let's try a different approach. There's no guarantee that human rights are going to improve, but certainly with the old policy, they weren't getting much better.
But Cuba's not a democracy, is it? Is the administration hoping it's going to nudge Cuba towards democratic reforms as well as changes in human rights?
I think that's the hope, but I think it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen in the long run, and it's going to be determined by the Cubans. The United States is not going to impose democracy or change in the human rights situation. The Cubans are going to have to decide it. What this does is take the United States out of the picture and let the Cubans work it out.
So what's next on the agenda as the US and the Cubans work their way down of these common issues?
Well, there are dialogues that will be setting up on human rights on both sides, law enforcement, cooperation, property claims that are still pending in the U.S. that lost property in the Cuban Revolution. These things are going to have to be worked out. There's a lot of issues that have to be addressed on both sides.
But there's trade, isn't there, in this for the United States? You can see that with all these airlines opening up and wanting to fly to Havana.
Well, there's been a tremendous boom in the U.S. tourists going to Cuba since the announcement in December. That's going to increase. There's enormous interest and curiosity. And we just have to, the United States has to be patient, though. On the Cuban side, they want to hold on to their model, the economic model and the political model. So this has to be worked out, and the United States has to understand that this is going to be a long process. It's not going to happen from one day to the next.
Michael Shifter, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.